It was time to start thinking about calendars for 2015, and I decided I didn't want to make the usual hanging wall calendar. So instead, I made this magnetic dry erase calendar that sticks on my fridge. To make it, all you need is printable vinyl, which I would suggest using printable clear transparencies, magnetic sheets that come in either rolls or as letter-sized sheets, the DigiKit of your choice. I used The Good Life by Etc. by Danielle, and whatever else from your stash you decide you need using your creativity. Rather than walking you step by step through how I built the calendar itself on my computer, I'm just going to fast forward through a screen recording while I worked. I opened up a letter-sized document in the landscape format because I want my calendar to be longer than it is tall. And then I put the background paper that I wanted to use. I fell in love with this painted graph paper. And once I had the paper in place, I built a grid using the rectangular shape tool and just used the vertical and horizontal align buttons in order to make that grid. Now, if you notice, I only have 4 rows. I fixed that later when I went, oh, that's not enough spaces for dates. So once I had my grid and my papers all set, I went and pulled some elements, keeping in mind that I wanted this to be flat. I don't want it to look like it's coming off the paper because I'm going to be writing over the top of it when it's on my fridge. And to me, that just doesn't look right. So I played with some elements, played with overlay modes on the paints, changed the colors of the hearts, and just played around with placement. I also decided I wanted the background of the writing area to be different than the background of the calendar as a whole, so I played with different papers. And this is one of my favorite parts about Digi, is I don't have to decide anything beforehand. I knew kind of what I wanted this to look like, but until I really got in there and played with size and layout, it just kind of came together. It took me about 20 minutes from start to finish to put together this flat file. And once I had moved everything around like I wanted and had all the elements on that I needed, I could save it and get it ready for printing. Now, while I save it here on screen, something to consider is depending on the type of transparency you're able to find will determine how you print this. Printable clear transparencies have one side that's kind of textured. It's got just a little bit of texture for the ink to stick on. The other kind of vinyl, that if you get the white vinyl, you're going to be printing directly on the front. The reason that I suggest the clear transparency is that you can print it and then you can use the other side for your actual writing, so that if for some reason you do want to wipe it off with a damp cloth, you're not going to take your ink off with it. I learned that the hard way with the first version of this type of project that I made last week. So I would suggest using the clear transparencies. Now to print, you're going to want to print it like you're printing on the wrong side of something. So you're going to flatten your image, and then you're going to go to Image, Image Rotation, and flip Canvas Horizontal. That's going to just flip it so that it's backwards. If you have any text and you're looking at it on the screen right now, it's going to be backwards. Then you're ready to print. You're going to put the transparency in based on how your printer prints. I can't tell you exactly how yours is. On mine, I put it with the printing side down because of the way that it pulls it through. Now on my settings, I set it to photo paper because that's going to give the best quality of ink layout. And then you're ready to print. It's going to take a little bit to print. I'm not showing you that part because I couldn't figure out how to best video by myself at home. It's the only time it's quiet is when I'm by myself. So But once it's printed, you have to let it sit in the printer for a little while, otherwise you're just going to smudge the ink when you go to pick it up. So give it some time to print and then dry, and then you are ready for the next step. So here I've finished printing. I have two samples. The one on the left was printed on a clear transparency on the reverse side, and the one on the right was printed on a piece of white printable vinyl. After I printed it and started playing with it, I realized this vinyl isn't going to work for a calendar because you need to be able to dry erase, use a dry erase marker on it, and the vinyl isn't slick enough to erase the marker. So I'm going to continue the rest of the tutorial only showing the painted transparency. So once it was done printing, I took it out in the garage, used a can of, I had some Dover white spray paint, sprayed the back of it, let it dry, and now I'm going to match the corners of the transparency to the corner of the magnet and just peel a little bit of the magnet back so you can match up the corners. And this kind of takes a little bit of playing around to get things straight, and you're going to want to do it slowly because you don't want air bubbles. So I'm going to pull back just a little bit, keep matching up the sides, keep matching. And now I'm going to slowly peel the paper away while pressing firmly on the transparency to keep it right along the edge. And then a couple firm presses to make sure that it's all adhered and it's all set. The last step is to use an X-Acto knife and a ruler to trim up the edges and take off the white if you have a border. If you want, that's an optional step. Once you are finished with that, you can decorate it with bits and bobs from your stash. On this one, I used some flowers and a chipboard clock. This is the vinyl one, so it's just as a sample, but it's not really functional. And this is the transparency one, and I included a couple flowers and a clip that I can clip tags and notes for myself. This calendar would make a great last-minute gift for lots of people on your Christmas list, and I hope you use this as a great jumping-off point for some hybrid projects.